Charlie Green entered the quiet diner, his worn olive coat bearing silent testimony to years of service. He settled by the window, waiting for his son Marcus. A few patrons glanced at him, their stares lingering just long enough to remind him he didn't quite fit here. Charlie ignored them. He'd faced far worse. The bell over the door chimed, and a burly police officer strode in. His eyes scanned the room before locking on Charlie. His jaw tightened, and his boots thudded as he approached. "You lost?" the officer sneered, his tone sharp. Charlie met the man's gaze calmly. "Just waiting for my son," he replied, his voice steady. But the officer wasn't satisfied. His comments grew crueler, dripping with prejudice. When Charlie handed over his veteran ID, the officer barely glanced at it before tossing it back. "Veteran? Doesn't mean you belong here." Charlie held his ground, but the officer escalated. The ultimate humiliation came when he spat on Charlie's coat, loud enough to draw gasps from the other patrons. Charlie, jaw tight, simply said, "I have as much right to be here as anyone." The officer's face twisted in anger. Grabbing Charlie's arm, he yanked him outside, slapped on cuffs, and shoved him into the squad car. "Let's see how tough you are in a cell," the officer growled. At the station, Charlie waited silently, the weight of the cuffs a reminder of countless injustices he'd endured. Hours later, raised voices echoed down the hall. The officer turned, his confidence evaporating as Marcus Green, Charlie's son and a respected police captain, stormed in. "What the hell is going on here?" Marcus demanded, his voice cutting through the room. The officer stammered, attempting an excuse. "I didn't know he was your father." Marcus's eyes blazed. "That's the problem. It shouldn't matter who he is. You saw a black man and thought you could humiliate him. You spat on a veteran. You arrested him for sitting in a diner. And you thought you'd get away with it." The officer's arrogance faltered, but Marcus wasn't done. "You disgrace that badge and everything it stands for. Today, you're going to face consequences." The next day, the officer sat before a review board. Marcus presented witness testimonies and evidence, dismantling the officer's claims of procedure. When the officer muttered that Charlie had been uncooperative, Marcus shot back, "Uncooperative? My father was sitting quietly, waiting for me. You didn't see a man. You saw someone you thought you could control." The board delivered their verdict swiftly. Termination, effective immediately. The officer left the room, his head low and career over. That evening, Marcus visited his father. Sitting together on the porch, Marcus shared the news. "He's gone, Dad. Fired. They backed me all the way." Charlie nodded, pride evident in his expression. "You stood up for what was right, Marcus. That's what matters. It's not easy to confront injustice, but you didn't back down." Marcus clenched his fists, anger flickering again. "I can't believe he did that to you, after everything you've done for this country." His voice trailed off. Charlie placed a hand on Marcus's shoulder. "I've faced men like him my whole life, but today, you showed the world that men like him can't act without consequences. That's what matters." As they sat in silence, the night air cool around them, Marcus felt a renewed sense of purpose. His father had taught him strength and dignity, and now it was his turn to carry that forward. If this story moved you, don't forget to like, comment, and subscribe. What would you have done in Marcus's place? Share your thoughts below and join us in the fight for equality and justice.